Hello, everyone. My name is JD Calderon, and this is Indy Comics Explained. And yet again, I brought another fantastic group of independent comic book creators. So please hit like, hit subscribe, share the video, let everybody know we're here. And without further ado, I got this guy filling in for the other dude, Tom.
Filling in for the other dude. Yeah. That'll happen from time to time. I'm the fill-in guy. Yeah.
There you go. And then I got this dude filling in for Tom.
Hello, everybody.
What's up, Mark? Please introduce yourself.
This is Mark Torres for Came From the Radio, the official The Big Apple Con. We host a syndicated weekly radio show on WGBB, Long Island's oldest radio station out in Long Island. And I'm also the writer of my book, Designated, Book About 2, wherein alien races fighting over a new discovered power source. The war finds its way to planet Earth, and as a result, some humans gain abilities. Issue 1 is available, and Issue 2 just came out 3 weeks ago. So hooray.
Cool. For anybody who's asking, I don't ask Tom to introduce himself because everybody should just know who he is by this point.
That's correct. That's what I assume at this point. Yeah.
Everybody just knows. So,
Yeah. It's me and J. Scott Campbell. We're like the same thing,
There you go. Anthony, please introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm Anthony Christou, fantasy artist, comic book writer, game designer, based in Adelaide, South Australia. When I'm not writing or painting, I'm in the garden growing stuff or doing whatever, really, playing some video games or whatever. So, yeah. And it's morning here in Adelaide. I'm facing the Arctic Ocean. So, yeah.
Nice. Fred.
Hey, how's it going?
Yes, good.
Fred Schwartz, writer and creator of Fisticuffs. Happy to be here. I guess I'm filling in for filling in. So it's nice not to be the last segment on the human centipede. So glad to be here and excited to talk about the topic today, man. This is a good one.
All right, cool. All right, Benjamin, I would never ever say you're the end on the human centipede thing.
I was going to say, I feel like I can't really follow that up. My name is Benjamin Hunting. I'm a freelance writer and comic book creator. And right now this is Dead Air number 2, but we've got Dead Air number 3 on Kickstarter right now at deadaircomic.com.
All right, very nice, very nice. All right, gentlemen. So I'm pretty sure I don't know how many of you have seen this question, read the question, but this is the show question, and we will start with who is working harder than you in indie comics, right? Now, that's just the first half of the question because it's always way too long to put the whole thing. So that's just the first half. Second half is, and since you're working so hard, why are you not achieving your goals? Or are you? Right? So that's those are some tough ones. But Benjamin, unfortunately, last man in, first man up. So you're up.
Straight up, I didn't. This kind of question. So I've been a freelance writer for 18 years. That's my day job, and I never, ever, once, ever think about other writers ever. Mm-hmm. There's always enough work for everybody. There's always another magazine. There's always another publication. So I've only been making comics since I guess 2018. And I don't think I've ever given this question any thought either. And I realize that kind of makes me sound like a jerk because it's the whole topic for tonight's podcast. But I wouldn't know how to answer it. Like, I don't really pay attention to what other people do unless it's something I can learn from, which is, a big part of why I'm here tonight. So I can learn from all of you guys and what choices you guys have made and things that have worked and things that haven't. I think that it's mostly healthy to just focus on your own effort, which I think is the second part of the question that you were asking. Mm-hmm. In terms of realizing goals, it's pretty nebulous. Ultimately, I'd like people to read my comics. Fortunately, I'm in the position where I'm able to finance them until I can get them crowdfunded. And we've been really lucky on crowdfunding. We've had a lot of support. And I'm not sure what the next step would really be. Just getting more people to read them is really all I think about. There's no world dominance plan or anything past that. So it's a very, very boring answer. So I'm going to cede the floor to the next segment of the Centipede. I guess it's Frag.
Gotcha. All right, cool. Well, yeah, but I like to ask these questions because I think we need to. Sometimes we need to navel gaze. Maybe not a little bit too much, but we sometimes do need to navel gaze and just wonder, what's going on. But Fred, you're up.
Wow. So when I saw this question, I did a big ulp because to me, it's not so much a like compare to like other people and what they're doing and stuff. It's a real like look in the mirror question. And it's like, did I make the most of yesterday and today? And I am just the type of person where I don't think I really ever will, but I always, tried. And I'll get to the second part of the question too, because I think that's where I'm a little bit optimistic and not quite so hard on myself. But in terms of the, I may be a little annoying or pretentious here with this thing, but when I read the question, I also asked myself like, well, what is working on comics, right? Because like the thing that I'm learning now is like it's not just sitting down and writing or like sitting down and like promoting or any of the like the many hats that we have to wear, producer, editor, and so forth to get stuff done. So, it's also taking in content, reading other people's work, reading stuff that's in like the zeitgeist, reading stuff that you can learn from and stuff. And so, I don't know. It's a weird thing to me to like ask myself because like I don't have a lot of, I don't have much of a like a significant other or children or anything like that other people do. So kind of like everything I do is to try to keep, serving, learning story, learning comics, learning, stuff like that. I was watching a really interesting true crime the other day because I was thinking about something, a story idea. And one of the cops in the true crime said that he had this ritual. When he would go to work in the morning, he would pick up this like big heavy coin and he would put it in his pocket and he would carry it with him the whole day. And when he would come home at night, he would just take the coin out of the pocket and put it on the desk where he comes in. And to him, that was like the end of his workday. And like for the rest of his hours, like he is going to be a family person and all that stuff and leave work at the office. And I don't know. I think like to some degree, like I don't really ever like do that. Like I'm always kind of thinking and always rolling over and like making the next note and trying to figure out the next thing that I need to do to get the story in front of more people or get the story that I'm working on to a better place or anything like that. So I don't know, but like when I see that question, it's a real good, like, what could you do right now to be better? And frankly, one of the things that I think that helps with that is things like this, listening to other people and stuff like that. I actually adopted something you said in the last time I was here, JD, when you were talking about how you're now trying to get down to like an hour a day of TV. And I tried that for a few days and it made a huge difference, man. I got so much more done and I got, and that's the other thing too. Like when you say like, what is work on comics? Like I'm a very streaky person and I have a hard time sometimes just sitting in the computer and like writing in the blank page. I'm, more like make notes and collect things. And then it's very, I don't know. I have like my own kind of like process that might be a little like weird to people. So I don't know how I like stack up to other people. I wish I could be one of those more people that's like, okay, I'm going to sit down today and from like 9 to 5, I'm going to get stuff done and stuff. I mean, I do have tasks and I do try to accomplish stuff, but it's different. So I don't know. I guess to answer the question, to bring it all home is, I don't know. All I know is like that kind of question makes me try to find ways to work harder myself and try to fit more regimen in where in the past maybe I didn't have it.
Okay, fair enough.
Did that make sense, or that was all random? I don't know. But
listen, does it ever,
lots of sense.
Yeah, does it ever make any sense?
I don't know.
Right? Exactly. Neither do we. Anthony, what are your thoughts?
Oh, whoa. This one kind of hit home hard. Like, I feel like I'm the artist, writer. I don't do the lettering. And I even hire someone to help me with marketing the comic or doing my posts and stuff like that. So I feel like, guys, I'm the one that's working the hardest. Sorry, just joking. but you get what I'm saying. Like, I'm doing the art, the writing, and the problem with that, the big freaking issue with that is that you burn out, right? And so because I'm the artist, the writer, and it's been to my detriment. I haven't been able to do a graphic novel every year or a comic book, and I think that's where I've lost my momentum. So what happens is when you work too hard, you get screwed over. You screw yourself over. Like being the artist and the writer and the editor. I mean, like I said, I bring on other artists to help me speed me up, but still it's not enough. And I have an assistant, and it's not enough because you need to work with more people in comics, or you need to have, multiple comics and you're just the artist, something like that. But At the same time, I've had a lot of success too, though. So, like, I've had projects that have overfunded. I've had graphic novels that have raised 20K, like we said. This one is at 81%. We're nearly there. We're going to get funded, but this will be bittersweet for me. This will be bittersweet. This will be, I just barely fund, and I know I'm running this project at a loss, you know, and or breaking, whatever you want to call it, breaking even. I'm not getting paid for my time. I get to print the books. My fans get it. And I'll be walking away. I'll be stepping away, guys, from Kickstarter for comics. You know, so this is actually a farewell message, you know, to my fans as well. So it's kind of bittersweet in a way, because it's not enough doing everything on your own. Doing everything on your own gets tiring. And like I said, I'm looking for a publisher next. That's what I need to do. Is I need to find a publisher that's going to pay me upfront. I can work on the book. I don't have to do a million and one things to keep my comics alive. And, you know, like I said, and also the whole landscape's changed. So even if you work hard, things like the landscape of Kickstarter changes, you know, where now my comics are fantasy, high fantasy, Lord of the Rings style, G-rated book. It's got to compete against gritty superheroes, horror, and NSFW comics. Not knocking that genre, but I'm just saying that's what Kickstarter seems to want, and the big brands, and your Marvel and your DC, which that wasn't around in 2016. So, yeah, I think it's just more like, because I like to, I'm not blaming other things, but you got to look at it. Well, I'm doing everything I freaking well can to fund a book, but if it's not profiting, there are other factors at play. And sometimes you've got to just be like, who cares? I'll walk away. You know what I mean? So it's not like I give up, you know, because of that. It's more like I can't do anything more about the situation, like other than, you know, sending emails out, doing what I'm doing already, marketing it all myself as well. You know, I know, does that sound too dark and negative? But I'm just speaking the truth, and that's from, I think my perspective is very different to everyone else's, where someone is like is only the writer and working in a team. It's a different story, because you got two people, you got two heads, whereas it's mainly just me with a bit of, you know, hired help. And the other problem with having hired help is they're not going to tell you the truth of what's going wrong. They're going to just be like, oh, keep on going, because they want to keep their job. You know what I mean? So whether you're hiring someone in marketing or you're hiring someone to do your lettering or whatever, I mean, they want to see you succeed, but they're not going to see what's a bigger problem, or it's not their baby. You know what I mean? It's not their project in a way. Whereas if you're working with, you're co-sharing IP, someone's a writer, someone's an artist, there's a bit more something on the plate for that other person to make it succeed. So anyway, that's my 2 cents. Probably gone off on a tangent here, but yeah.
I mean, if you're hiring an editor, I would really hope that they're telling you where you're going wrong, because that's like the whole reason you hired them. That constructive criticism.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I've hired people to edit and look at my book, and you know, definitely taken all the feedback on board. But it's not. I don't think it's what I talk about hired help. It's more marketing. You know. So it's more people that will tell you, oh, you got to throw money at Facebook ads, when really it's probably the worst thing to do, because they're trying to make a buck off you to do their Facebook marketing course, you know. So it's not even, I'm not looking at, actually, it's not the creative people that I've hired to help me. It's actually more the marketing gurus and the schools and the courses out there. You know, there's a lot bigger picture at play with, you know, is it really worth advertising a comic book? You know, probably not. You know, a $40, $30 product, you're to acquire a lead, you're probably going to spend $20 to get that lead, maybe even more. You know, so, but yeah, editors, I've hired them, all done a great job. It's just, you know, it's just a tough game, I guess. Comics, as we all know. So,
all right, cool. Mark, what are your thoughts?
Well, the hardest person working in the indie comic scene, to my opinion, would be Mike Kingston, who does Headlock Comics. I met him 100 years ago, and he does a comic book wrestling.
Good stuff, too.
He knows him. So
yep, I've got a bunch of his books. Yeah.
And working very hard, and we had him. We did a live show with him, and he was telling me, "Yeah, I'm over here doing this convention. I'm gonna drive down to New York to meet you. Then I gotta go over here next week, and I'm going over here." So I see him all over the place. I see him hustling, and I have seen him hustling over the years. So hands down, out of everybody I know, sorry JD, you're on the top 5, but Mike Kingston Headlock is the guy who really is working hardest in the comic book industry world. Now, for me to get to his point, that's a completely different a horse. I just keep on doing what I'm doing, and I'm trying to keep on pushing as best as I can with my resources and the time available to me. For example, when we released issue 1 3 years ago, we did a performance at New York Comic Con. We had a panel. We had Trauma, which is the people who make the Toxic Avenger. They presented us. And so now that I have issue 2 coming out, well, it came out this 3 weeks ago. I reached out to Trauma again, and we're going to see if we can get into New York Comic Con for a second year to do our panel of reading this as a radio play. I've already submitted to New York Comic Con. I'm just waiting to get the approval.
All right, cool. And Mark, don't even worry about it because I'm not even in my own top 5 hardest working person. So.
I want to change my answer to JD, by the way. I'm sorry.
So
if the question is who's the hardest working man in Kickstarter, it's JD, because it's every 3 weeks something's launched. He's there again. He's there again. He's there again.
He's the most consistent.
Yeah. And the
yeah.
shows and everything. Like I really do admire your consistency. It's like a trait that I hope that I can get towards. I shut the effing TV off. That's how good you did, man. I was like, fuck it, I'll put the remote down.
I've picked up all the TV time you've lost. I've picked up. Don't worry.
Okay, cool.
Don't worry. Which tells you my answer to this question, which is everybody's working harder than I am. That's really the reality. In at least in a lot of sort of ways that we would quantify who's doing this and who's doing that and so on. I'm in the vein of Anthony. I don't do the drawings, but I do everything for Big Dog Inc. I write the stuff, I create the stuff, I find all the artists, I do all the art direction. I'm hiring letters, I'm wrangling all of the cats, plus I'm doing sales, plus I'm doing this goddamn show again, plus I'm doing Rosario's show on Friday, plus I'm doing my own shows whenever I do my shows. So there is a lot going on, and as I start to think about it, it's like, Jesus, I'm doing a lot because it's all me. Everything lands on these shoulders. There is nobody else that's like in the other room building my Kickstarters or fulfilling my stuff. I do all the shipping, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I do a lot, I think, in the sort of the macro sense of it all, but in the micro sense of it, I know that there's more that I could do in marketing elements. Calderon and Daphne, we've talked about this before. We all kind of struggle with the idea of what's the best way to do marketing, and what's the value of anything anymore. What's the ROI on whatever it is that you're doing. So for me, it's all kind of. I used to do like 20 plus shows a year. Now I do I'm back up a little more, but I probably do like 10 now. Most of them are. I got to a point where I was like, if you want me to your show, you got to invite me. People were like, fuck off. I was like, fine, I won't do your show. And then those shows got replaced by other shows that invited me. So I was like, it's a wash, So
don't mess with Tom. That's what it's saying. Don't mess with Tom. The shows get replaced.
Tom's your ratings. Yeah.
So we're back up to about 10 shows a year. Most of them are invited, which is great. I really appreciate that. Some of them have let us grow from small spaces into larger spaces because we seem to have some value to their con, which is great. So it's all just kind of, for me, everything over the last, 5-6 years has become ROI. It's like, what am I doing for any segment? And how much time does each segment really need? And then how much time would each segment require to do more, whatever do more means. But for me, I've found like a comfort level, and it's kind of dangerous because it borders. I'm on the right side of the line where the other side is lazy. Like you're either lazy or you're comfortable. And I'm not lazy yet because I still have too much to do, but I'm definitely comfortable. Like the Kickstarters do fine, the conventions do fine. I enjoy doing the shows and coming and talking about stuff. So I'm in this comfort bubble of like everything's fine. And so I haven't found that switch to like turn it on and be like, okay, let's go from fine to good, and then from good to better. And I haven't found that switch. A lot of stuff's gone on in the last few years. We don't have to go into it all again. We talk about it on these shows all the time, but it kind of pushed me down, like just from a vibe sense, an emotional sense, whatever. I kind of just settled back down, and I feel myself now starting to push, though. I'm writing a lot. I'm way ahead on my writing right now, which means all the artists can get ahead on writing. So everything in the Kickstarter sense, which is my business now, is getting better. It is slowly taking steps forward to be a little better and a little better and a little better. So that makes me really happy, and I'm going to kind of coast on that for a while because it feels good that part's working. Once that part is sort of like just doing its own thing, like it's perpetual motion, then we'll worry about, okay, what's the marketing step? Do we add 2 more cons? Do we go to a different part of the country to help all this work? But for right now, I gotta get that part coasting, and we're close to it.
All right, cool. It's funny, when I first came up with this question, I really wasn't thinking about the actual physical work of doing comics, because that's so ingrained in my blood. Doing it, it's like second nature, right? Like I just go ahead and start doing it, right? I was thinking more marketing, right? And it's just like, because Rob Multari, man, I mean, the way he has it worked out in his system, and I'm like, he starts talking about it, I get tired just listening to him. I'm just like, oh, dude, the way he does this is not going to work for me, because there's so many other things to do. And I see so many other people, and I see a lot of complaints, right? Well, I shouldn't say complaints. It's concerns. It's, it's a lot. Yeah, I could definitely say it's some kvetching where, everybody's saying, the algorithm doesn't work for me. The Facebook ads don't work for me. And I get it. The Facebook ads don't work for anybody except the chosen few who pump $20,000 a year into it, right? So, but a lot of people are expecting these results that they haven't worked for, right? If you expect to sell as many books, I mean, if you expect to raise over $50,000 on a campaign, but you haven't had a 10-year career at Marvel or DC at a high level, it's probably not going to happen for you. It can happen, but it's probably not going to happen for you. You can build to that, but that takes a long time, and that takes a serious strategy and a serious effort. And I don't want to discourage anyone, but I would just say always take a serious hard look at where you're at, and go from there. Because a lot of people overestimate themselves as to where they want to be and what they want to do. But if you want to raise that big money, you need to focus on getting into Marvel and getting into DC to build that cred with a much larger audience. Kirkman said it long before I did, so that's just the way. That's how I feel about it. But
what if the books you make don't have anything to do with DC or Marvel, though? Like you need a pathway that doesn't include mainstream comics. Well, absolutely nothing I've ever created would ever be published by DC or Marvel, right?
Well, no, but you could go work for Marvel and DC. You could write Batman. You could write Wonder Woman.
I didn't read any of that growing up. I don't read it now.
It's
not.
None of the writers at those places have read this shit before. That's why we have what we have right now.
Yeah,
I just don't have a familiarity with that side of the industry.
Right. I mean, to answer the question, okay, I back in the 90s, I was writing professionally. I wrote this book called Tenchi Muyu, right? And I knew nothing about that project. It was an anime. It was an anime, obviously from Japan. I'd never heard of it, never seen it. The company hired me. They handed me a bunch of videotapes. I watched the entire series, and I wrote the 6-issue limited series they hired me to do, right? You're a professional writer. It's all about research, right? So, if they hire you to write Batman, I'm pretty sure you're going to make it your business to read the last 200 or 300 issues of Batman, or at least the best stuff.
Or just any of these companies that have licenses that you understand. There's stuff that's like Conan, and there's cartoons and stuff. Now, obviously, those are higher profile books, and they're going to probably get some names. But as stuff goes along and it expands, like look at Thundercats right now. Thundercats was just a Thundercats series. Now it's like 7 spin-offs, and it's just this wild, rambling of stories. So if you were a Thundercats fan, just as an example, you could go over to Dynamite and talk to those editors and be like, you ever got a spot? You ever got an annual? You ever got a short story? You ever got something? I'd be happy to jump in and do this. And then all of a sudden you have Thundercats on your resume, and that can start to change your visibility to the public.
But you'd also have to assume that, like, your Thundercat, just to use your example, your Thundercat readership would cross over into whatever type of comic you're making, and I'm not sure that's necessarily true in all cases.
Not necessarily,
sure, but
but that's you're not wrong. But just the fact that you can say, I wrote Thundercats, I wrote Wonder Woman, I wrote Batman, in any capacity, it gives you a credibility for your talent level. Gives you a credibility of like, oh, that guy wrote Wonder Woman, and now he writes his own stuff. What is his other stuff? It also gives you credibility in the context of Comic Cons, because you can tell promoters, I'm a Batman writer, I'm a Wonder Woman writer, I'm a Thundercats writer, and that within that context will level up your visibility and value, whatever that means, to them, and it might even get you extra space, discounts, or a table at a con, where again you can then sell your stuff. So the whole point is to level up your perception within the bubble of people that don't know who you are. And then, if you're writing Thundercats, but then your own book is like, H.P. Lovecraft, there might not be a crossover, but all it's allowing you to do is have something on your resume. It's like I was a CEO of this company, I was a CEO of that company, I can run your company. So it's leveling up your resume in whatever possible way you can, and then using that to, translate down the line.
Yeah.
And
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Fred.
One thing that's actually really helped me without doing exactly that, but just at like the infancy of my career, is has been like pull quotes. I've had a lot of success. Like I met Dan Didio and Frank Miller at a signing, and I was able to get a quote from Didio. I got some from Scott Snyder, and having that kind of credibility, like even though like I'm not working for DC or Marvel or anything like that, it lends a little bit of that Marvel DC name value that helps people be like, especially at cons and stuff, be like, oh, okay, maybe there's something worth trying here because of the brand adjacency, I guess. So I mean, things like that help without me needing to be. I mean, I am a Marvel and DC fan, but that stuff helps without me writing a Spider-Man or a Batman story, but it like lends legitimacy to what I'm doing, I think.
Yeah, so to connect a fan base that doesn't know you to something that they do know, and if you're connected to something that they do know, that opens the door for you.
Yeah, I mean, to connect.
Can I interject at all, or
go ahead?
Yeah, so I mean, I think any sort of credibility helps if you're wanting to level up your brand. Like, for instance, I've published puzzles internationally in America and Australia. I've worked on AAA video games, and like going to conventions in Australia, I'm now a guest at, yes, I've got my own indie comic, but I'm a guest because I've worked on a major video game like Path of Exile as an artist. I've been publishing with multiple puzzle publishers across the world. And so, and even like during COVID, that kind of propelled me to put my comics on a higher platform, because now like, oh shit, I've seen his art in Kmart. He's got his dragons in Kmart or Amart, whatever, Walmart, sorry. Mm-hmm. So it can be in any form. And I think, and like to go back to the whole thing, I kind of agree. Like I'm a fantasy artist, and my stuff is fantasy. Like I'd want to work on the Jim Henson comics so like, you're right. I should really be approaching those guys to be an artist and a writer on a the Labyrinth comic or a Dark Crystal comic or a Conan the Barbarian comic. But what's the next best thing? Going to a publisher with my stories, like a major, youth audience publisher, like Scholastics or whoever publishes kids comics, and going, hey, these are my books. I want to do the next volume with you guys and republish everything or remaster everything or whatever. So I think there's many ways you can attack growing your brand. And, it's always navigating what is the best option of your time, because I mean, and also to go back to your whole thing about who's working the hardest, I think we are all working our asses off. Yeah. And I think that's the true answer is we're all working our asses off, but we're all trying to figure out where we belong. and that's a constant battle, and it's a constant shifting landscape with the world economy, with things that are going on in the world, and we have to always adjust and pivot to get to that next pinnacle that we want to get to, you know. So overnight success is not overnight success, you know what I mean? It is a
Takes
grind,
30 years.
you know. So anyway, that's my last 2 cents. So
I feel like I'm gonna come across as a contrarian, but I really have no interest in working on someone else's IP in any situation, regardless how it would impact my career. I came from, when I was much younger, I was a rave promoter. I was putting out my own music. You know, we were pressing our own 12 inches. We were doing parties in abandoned warehouses and stuff. We wanted nothing to do with the mainstream music industry. And I feel the same way about comics. I'm telling stories that I want to tell because I'm not seeing them anywhere else. And I don't really have an interest in porting that over to someone else's characters or another series. I feel like comics are an amazing medium because we're able to put out our own stories any way we want with unlimited budgets for whatever we want to do, right? Where there's so few constraints when we're looking at the page and the imagination that we can put on that. And like, if comics meant working for another publisher, I would not be in comics. I haven't had a job in almost 20 years. Like I'm not someone who can have a boss or anything like that, or work with concepts that I don't create. It's not something that interests me. Like I just feel very disconnected from that. I understand how it's extremely helpful for people's careers who are connected to that type of storytelling and have a connection to that type of comics. Don't get me wrong. And I have seen it work for some indie creators, but like personally, I can't connect with that. So I feel like the odd man out here, and I don't want to like disparage anyone who's looking at that as a tool for building their own brand, as you said.
Well, I want to throw something quickly.
Listen, Mark, hold on. Can I just, Ben, you're not the odd man out. You're 110% correct. I've been there. I'm sure everybody else on this panel is in a similar position where you're at. I started self-publishing when I was 21 years old in 92, right? Been self-publishing ever since. I picked up the pro work because one of the artists I was working with said, listen, you know, do you want to apply for this thing that these guys are looking for writers? And I had a choice at the time. I was young. I was 25, I think, at the time. And I could either flip a burger or I could go write comic books. So I wrote comic books for these people, right? So that was the choice. But ever since then, I've been working on my own stuff. Now, to add on to what Tom was saying, what I did with Tenchi Muyo, right? I wrote that in 97. Some guys just recently reprinted it, right? And I spoke to them. I got a royalty for the work that I did, which was great. But the other thing that I got was I got the mailing list from Kickstarter from it. And out of that mailing list, I got 3% maybe, if I'm lucky, of those people to come over to my campaign, right? So now they had 1,800 backers. Okay, so I only got like 50 or 60 new backers, but that 50 or 60 new backers to my campaign was huge. You know, it added several $1,000s to my campaigns, and my campaigns regularly make $2,000 or $3,000. So I was like, so for that to happen, I was able to grasp that small amount and bring it over and help, and it's worked. You know, to help me monetize a little bit more my stuff. So and here's the thing, I got a full-time job. And comics is my very, very expensive hobby, right? So I take it, and whatever funds I get out of it, I give it right back to my artists, right? So that's what I do. So the more money I make, the more money I can give them. And a lot of them do rely on me for the regular paycheck because I've worked with a number of them for like 10 years plus, and there's like 4 or 5 of them. So that's what I'm saying. Like if I ever got the opportunity to do that stuff at those companies, I wouldn't necessarily, it's not something I want to do because I'm not pursuing it, but I wouldn't look down my nose at it. Right. I wouldn't be like, I wouldn't be too high-minded about it because it's like, you never know, if the old adage goes, if they ask you to write Batman, go write Batman. That's all I would advise. But I understand where you're coming from though. 110%. Because I really don't want to work because I've never pursued it because I'm not interested in writing Peter Parker. I'm not interested in writing Spider-Man. But if they offered it to me, that's a whole different ballgame. Tom,
Well, I think Mark was trying to say something.
Oh,
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
so,
Mark. Yes, I'm sorry. You're right.
So first, Ben, I just want to say that you have to look at a different mindset. You said I haven't had a job for 20 years. No, your job is making comics. So you have to make sure you have the right mindset.
My job isn't making comics though. Making comics is something I do. My job, I have a profession, and that profession is writing. But like comics is one aspect of that profession.
Okay, fair enough.
That's
The
my
other thing I
view.
want to throw out there is that it's funny that we're having this conversation now, because when I went to comic book school at 96 was the exact same conversation about how to get your stuff out there. And the answer back then was get into your foot into the big business guys, make a name, and then do your own independent stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's also not even just about the publishing, like being published out in that regard, but it's also just the people that you meet. You know, if you're writing Batman, you're going to have your editor and your assistant editor and your artist and your inker and your colorist and your letterer. Like you're in a big circle of people that, you know, it's like 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. It's like, where can that guy, who does that guy know that I'm working with now? And it can just create this chain of events to you know, take you through all kinds of places. Even if, you know, your goal is to make your own stuff and you want Image Comics to publish it or whatever, you got to know people at Image Comics in order for that to happen. It's not like it was back in the day where you pitched and they're like, yeah, we'll take you. Like that doesn't happen anymore. You literally have to have track record behind you. You have to know people in order for Image to even give you a look over their shoulder to publish your book. So it's not just simply I wrote Batman. It's all of the little people in the events that, you know, kind of come to get you there and take you out of there and see kind of what comes next.
No, I can appreciate what you're saying. Yeah. And I just think though, is like the amount of time that I would spend writing Batman and making those connections and whatnot is time I'm not spending on the projects I want to spend them on. And like,
of course, and
have that balance.
There's no right or wrong in any of this. Like Calderon was saying, like there's no right or wrong. It's just a matter of if you are sitting there and saying, I'm not moving forward, ask yourself why. And if one of the doors that opens for you is, hey, we got something at Dynamite that would give you visibility from fans, visibility from editors, visibility from publishers, visibility from people that aren't looking at you, then that's a door that, you know, I think most people that are writers or creators or whatever would be like, yeah, that's a door I could knock on for a year and take me to where I could then take what I do have, my stuff, and maybe drop it off at some other publisher and so on, because it's the people that you meet along the way too. I mean, that's half the reason we do cons anymore. Yeah, you make some money, but it's the people that you meet. You know, you might be meeting creative people, you might be meeting publisher people, you might be meeting whoever, and you never know where those guys, again, 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. Some guy might look at your book and be like, hey, I know this Hollywood guy. You want to turn your thing into a TV show? You know, so it's all about, it's partially about the actual work, but then it's also sort of the larger scale of who are you working with? What new pond have you been dropped into that could move your own projects forward, you know, down the line? That's where, and again, I'm like JD. I don't go chase Marvel and DC or any of that kind of stuff. I don't do it. I've had some things offered to me that some I've taken, some I've turned down. But you know, everybody's journey is whatever they want it to be. So that's it.
I think ultimately though, it's good to do our own thing. And I agree, like, you know, if you don't want to do like work for these big brands, that can be daunting, and it can sometimes not work in your favor as well. But I will say this, like, I see a lot of people also succeeding by, like, a lot of artists just going, I'm going to do fan art, right? And I'm not, like, you know, and that's their focus. And next minute they're actually doing a Batman cover for actual DC Comics, or they're working on a client that I really want. And I'm like, how the fuck did you get that? You know, what the hell happened there? You know, like, you know, and it might be a fantasy art client that I've been trying to get for Magic the Gathering. Anyway, but the point is, like, they may be painting superheroes and doing fan art. And because, you know, things like big companies that you may want to work for change what they do. But I guess what I'm trying to say as well is, like, most people that I know that have really scaled up what they do creatively have done a homage to other brands. Unfortunately, like, I don't know many indies whether it's in the film industry, game industry, or there's some people that are always an outlier, and they just, and when their success comes from luck. So, like for instance, the video game Hollow Knight. I don't know if you know that game. It's made like hundreds of millions of dollars. It was a small indie studio, but they basically hustled and grinded, and they basically hit the jackpot with that video game. It just kind of went crazy nuts because people wanted that game. And I've seen it with success with like family and people that have made it in the film industry. They were doing like, I guess, fan art videos, you know, or they were paying homage to big brands, and then they got to make their own movie, you know. So I feel that it's good to always have your own thing and never forget why you're doing it. But I see the people that always have these career growths and just scale up is they do work with the big people because they learn their secrets. Like they work for Marvel and DC, and it sucks. Like no one wants to hear that. Hey, we don't care about your thing. Go do something else. Go, you know. And I get it. Like it's time out of your schedule, you know. And sometimes it can not work. Like you could go work for a big brand and it doesn't actually benefit your brand at all or what you do. But then sometimes it does, and it's just about what you can stay where you are and stagnate, or you can try something different. Hey, and if you do it for a year and it doesn't work, at least you can say, hey, I tried it. I'm not doing that again. I'll go back to doing my own stuff. You know what I mean? So, and like, I'm not trying to be the authority figure here, but I've seen it like with my cousins who are Raka. They were making YouTube videos, paint out superheroes, Lord of the Rings meets Star Wars, and then they got to make their own feature film. You know, but they built that up. You know, I'm also friends with Boss Logic, right? He's a convention artist. Boss Logic is a major cover artist and film artist, and you know,
No, it's okay. But listen, it's a question for the ages, right? But right now we got your luminous ages up, so let's talk about this. Walk us through this, man. What do we got here?
I don't know. You asked a question. It's a fantasy comic filled with dragon gods, all that dragons and all that. Any questions at all you want to ask, or?
Yeah. Well, I mean, how many pages is the trade that you're selling now, the hardcover?
Yeah, so it's a 48-page book. It's the third volume in a series. There's actually 4 books in the series. The second book is an illustrated novel, but there's filled with art, fantasy art. The premise is, I'll do the quick elevator pitch. It's a world filled with dream magic. There's 3 superpowers. There's the luminaries, the captivaries, and the chosen. So the luminaries can draw and bring creatures to life. The captivaries can capture enemies on a page or capture an entire city or a village or whatever. So this is all hand painted. It's a 48-page soft cover. We have volume 1 is still a hardcover for sale. I'm also reprinting books. So if we do fund, I'm printing volume 1.5, 2, and 3 with all of that. We also have a jigsaw puzzle game, which is going live with all 15 years of my art. We're launching jigsaw puzzles. I've partnered with a video game studio with also narrative puzzles focused on the comic book series. So you get to explore my world in a jigsaw puzzle form. So I don't know if that explains it all. Thrakos is the main hero. He goes on this hero's journey to discover his powers. He's turning into some demonic entity. He doesn't know why. He's got to get to these dream wells to baptize himself in the water to become a captivary, to control his captivary powers. But will it get there in time? And if he does, like, is that truly what he has to do, or is there some other, I guess, cliffhanger or whatever? Is there another twist in the tale?
You said you do a lot of role playing games. Like, do you have a role playing game just based on this concept?
So we did make a 5e Dungeons and Dragons book as well, 2 actually, and we base it on the concept of the luminaries and captivaries. We have our own subclasses where there's wizards. Every class that's in D&D, we made them luminaries or captivaries or chosen. There is a third school in our world. They're called chosen. They're like dream warriors that can, I guess, wield multiple dream artifacts, but they can also manifest things with their mind and physical combat. So, yeah. We made 2 massive D&D books. They're awesome. I've got the book somewhere lying around here, but I won't get up. Maybe I'll show you later. But
But they are part of the campaign, though.
you can buy everything. Everything is available. Got digital commissions. I've got play mats, the whole lot. You want to use a play mat for Magic the Gathering or for your D&D campaign to roll your dice on. The dice roll on there beautifully. I normally do sell dice, but we chose not to do dice in this campaign simply because I wanted to make it all about the comics, because the comics need the love, the focus.
Mm-hmm.
You can also get your pet painted as a fantasy creature. I don't know if you saw that up there. So I'll digitally paint a character or pet. I can do traditional painting as well of pets. But obviously, I haven't added that tier in. I haven't had a huge demand for it yet. But yeah, it's probably about 5 books in the narrative series. There's 5. There's a spin-off comic with goblins, Greek goblins. So that's pretty much it. 48 pages. It's pretty much done. I'm just coloring the last 5 pages. It's probably 3 now. It's getting there.
How much time would you say it takes you to do a single page?
It's probably a solid 2 days from start to finish. I like I said, I have hired people to help along the way. Like I've worked with Rod Ramos Rodolfo. He's a great artist. He's right there. SK, he's my letterer as well. Rod Ramos Rodolfo would like he's lettered about 5 or 6 pages for me, but I've done the other 43 pages. But yeah, I mean, it depends. Rod Ramos does speed me up, so it would only take a day and a bit. Whereas if I'm doing it all my own, it's probably 2 days work per page. So, because that painterly kind of style, solid 2 days, 10-hour days. I'm not talking about 9 to 5. So these are long days.
Are you painting digitally or are you painting traditionally?
I do both. So some of these pages are completely traditionally painted. There was an island landscape one back up there. I think further down, sorry. There was like that island landscape, not that one, a bit further down. There was another, keep on going. Sorry. Keep on going down to the partner. Maybe, no, bit more. It's back up the top. Anyway, there was about 5 of the pages are all acrylic. So maybe 6 pages were done with acrylics. So, and then I scan in and touch them up, and I retouch them digitally, of course. So, I think it's up. Yeah, that one there. That's it there. That one there. So that's all acrylic painting, and there's probably a few other cases of that in the book as well. It's probably I'd probably say 6 or 7 acrylics. Unfortunately, those acrylics already sold, and I kind of use my fine art clients to fund my comic. It sounds really weird. But people that love my comics, they'll be like, hey, I'd like to, see that landscape painting right there in the middle? That's in the comic. That was a 1.5 meter painting sold to a private collector. And so I'm like, hey, do you mind if I whack this in my comic but put my characters in there? And they're like, yeah, sure, no worries, So I take photos of everything I do that I sell. And it just happens that I do paint, nice landscapes and fantasy art or cute ducks like these. The duck it was an original painting as well. So that one there, that's the next duck in the series. So that duck is all done by hand, and then I scan and touch up. So all up, this book I've been working on it in the background since 2023. So it's just, and I really started to get to the end. The writing was finished by the end of December, and I'm like, well, you know what? I only really have to paint 20 pages. I've been painting that since January, and I'm now up to the last 4 pages. So let's hope it funds, or else no one's going to see it until I get a publisher. That's the other thing. So I think we're going to get there, but I've said I'm not giving up. I'm just going to go to Scholastic or a YA audience publisher. Look for someone else. So Kickstarter doesn't want me. I'll give it to these fans. I'll make sure my fans get it in some way, sell it, or say, hey, you're going to get a first copy of the book when I get a bigger publisher. So, but we're 81% funded. Will we get there in 3 days? I don't know. I hope so.
You'll make it. You'll make it. It's a great looking book. I mean, everybody, I would suggest, definitely go check it out. You love fantasy. This is a book for you, man. Go get it.
I think, just so you know, like my biggest inspiration, the Lord of the Rings, the Labyrinth. And if you like those things, you're going to like my book. If you like and mythology, I guess the Odyssey. So being Greek background, I put a lot of my culture into the books.
Right.
So if you really like the Odyssey, you like Lord of the Rings, and you like the Labyrinth, you're going to get all those kind of in the thing, mixed with different mythologies as well, from Persian to Egyptian to Japanese culture in there as well. So,
all right, cool, very nice. I mean, I don't know how much culture, his own culture, Fred put into his book, but
JD with the segues, man, like unparalleled.
It was terrible. It was terrible. But I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That's okay. So, Fisticuffs, right, is the story of a functional drunk whose comfortable life derails after a one-night stand has deadly consequences. It's a 6-issue miniseries. It is the dark sense of humor of the boys with the kind of explosive action you'd find in Invincible, and the kind of deeply personal storytelling that you'd find in a Scorsese film, as we deal with, mental health, dysfunction, and addiction themes throughout the story. The art is by the incredible Stan Yak. We have colors by Robert Nugent and Timothy C. Brown. Dave Sharp does the letters. We have that very sexy cover there by the great Kiss Kiss. We have another variant in there by Erwin Arosa. And we're launching on June 2nd. We're going to jam-pack the first few days with a lot of fun exclusives. We're going to have a variant cover that will only be available for the first 72 hours, and that'll be available in foil and metal. We're going to do some discount bundles, so in case you're new to the story, you can catch up very easily and at a discount. And it's just about the basically a protagonist. I think Lost Soul would be putting it generously. He's a guy that thinks he's Alex Delarge or Slim Shady, but doesn't realize he's closer in character to George Costanza. Just kind of a guy that hasn't learned life's hard lessons yet. And like we say, we kind of put him through the ringer here, and kind of find out what kind of person he's going to be. Issue 4 is the one that we're launching now, and this is one of the most absurd and one of the most fun ones. He gets to fight a giant blooming onion. So it's a very deeply personal story. It's a little genre bendy, but I think the deeply personal story and the intimacy with the narrator is the kind of connective tissue. And I think if you guys check it out, if you guys enjoy any of those projects or dig the art, I think you will not be let down.
Cool. Now, I know I asked you this before. How many issues is the series?
It's a 6-issue miniseries altogether, and 1 through 6 are all drawn. So we're just going through the process now of coloring and lettering, and hopefully we plan to have 5 out by the end of the year. And I would love to leave you guys on a nice big cliffhanger and then dump it off after the holidays. So I think that's hopefully where we're going to be. And I'm just really excited to bring this one to you. Hopefully we're going to, I think I said before, my first Kickstarter campaign was kind of an educated guess. The second one was kind of refining. And I think this time with some of the exclusives, we're going to have some little figurines and little cool, tchotchke type stuff that, for the campaign. And we're going to get the foray into some stuff that we've never done before. So hopefully, we'll see what works, and, we'll have fun with this one.
All right, cool. Very nice. Now, is Stan your partner?
Well, he's no. In this one, this is my baby, and he was hired. But our next collaboration is a straight collaboration. It's a partnership.
Cool.
Was that a question, or was that the beginning of a segue?
No, that was a question.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No, this story. This was my pet project, my thing, and I was lucky enough to find him. So glad I did. He's, he 100% was like the perfect artist for this. He kind of is able to do the I describe almost like Jim Lee, kind of like clean forms and clean stuff, but he does it in kind of like a messy punk aesthetic that really suits the gritty story. He was a godsend. Best thing, luckiest I ever got in my life was finding him.
Did he do the colors on these as well?
No, colors. Issues 1 and 2 are Robert Nugent, and 3 and 4 have been Timothy C. Brown.
Okay, cool. Very nice, man. It looks fantastic.
Thank you.
I did give the first issue a read through. I really enjoyed that.
Thank you, man. I'm glad.
But I'm a bit of a trade waiter. So.
Yeah, I hear you.
You have to wait a little bit for me to back you, but it'll happen once you put out that trade. I'll be there.
The trade is coming. I really just want to hear what you think of it. I just want the JD Calderon review. Oh.
Well, you gotta wait till I get the whole. See, the problem is I gotta get the whole thing in my hand.
No, I know. I just, I think it'll be fun to, see how you take it after all this time.
But it looks good, and it started good.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, so very nice. Everybody, go sign up for that one because it looks awesome.
I just did.
Right.
Thank you, Benjamin. I appreciate it.
All righty. All right, now to get away from this dead air. Anyway, so Benjamin, do you want me to play this video?
Sure, if you want to.
All right, it's just the other two gentlemen. They've been on the show before, and I've already played their videos, so we're just you're new.
All right, go for it.
Eine Aufnahme. Spanien und
It's time for a CJNK takeover, reaching out from the 1990s to bring you Dead Air Radio ripped straight from the pages of the Dead Air graphic novel. Tune into Ferry, Michelle, Josie, TJ, Taewook, and Esmeralda as they take you on a journey through that decade's best music, all while dealing with the mysterious messages being sent to them from the great beyond, and the fallout from their choices that will haunt their adult selves 15 years later. All this and more on CJNK 89.9 FM.
Cool, very nice. I like it. Short and sweet.
Yeah, I did for 18 months. I was doing an NFM radio station show, Dead Air Radio. So I just pulled from that. We did about 75 episodes of 90s music, and the book itself is about a world where one day out of the year you can talk to the dead, and it focuses on a group of students who are in the 90s. They're all college radio DJs. And then there's a tragedy that happens to their group of friends. And 15 years later, using that technology to talk to the dead, they discover that what they thought happened actually didn't happen the way they thought at all. And so their adult selves 15 years later have to solve the mystery and grab the glimpse of hope that maybe they can make things right. And the book bounces back and forth between the 90s and 2011, basically, in this world where we have this DTalk technology.
Cool.
And
Now,
I'm working with artist Joe Ng and my co-creator Angela Hodge. This is our second book together, and colors are from Maya Opechik, and we have Lyndon Radchenko doing the lettering.
very nice. Now, well, this is the third issue.
Yeah, all three issues are available in this campaign.
Awesome. Now, is this going to be? Do you have more issues to go? Is it a limited series ongoing?
It's a limited series. We're probably going to wrap it up with issue 4, but we're going to do like a mega issue, probably 40, 45 pages to tie everything together.
Very nice. I mean, the artwork looks really good. I mean, looks really, really nice.
Yeah, Joe's fantastic. He makes all my stuff look amazing.
Yeah. If you don't mind me asking, where'd you find him?
I've known Joe for 25 years.
Good.
Almost, yeah. And Angela even longer. So when I wanted to break into comics, when I wanted to start doing comics back in the late teens, I asked Joe if he knew an artist who wanted to work with me. And he's like, well, I'm an artist who wants to work with you. He was, he's been in comics for a long time. It's his career. And so I was very lucky to basically go to comics college with Joe, as he taught me everything he knew about how to put a book together, how to put a page together, how to put a panel together. So I came to comics much later in life, probably my early 30s is when I started really reading seriously. So it was fantastic to have that kind of relationship and someone who was willing to share their extremely deep knowledge of narrative and visual storytelling. Cool. And this is based on my own past. I was a college radio DJ in the 90s. So it's an era I know very well. I love the music, all different kinds of music. In the book, we have, there's a metalhead DJ, there's a goth DJ, there's a techno DJ. You've got pretty much everyone is represented. So we lean heavily into that era for a lot of the visual styling.
Very nice. So what's the mixtape thing?
So Angela is a product designer by trade, and she created this 3D printed tape, and it comes in a little case. You get a J card with it, and there's a download code that comes with the tape, and you get 10 episodes of Dead Air Radio. So it's 10 hours of 90s music. We picked the best ones from the last 18 months that went out over the air, and different genres, mix it up a little. Some of them are done in character of the show as well. So it's a fun way to tie things together to the actual music and the college radio aspects of the story.
Oh, that's really cool. That's nice. I like that. If you don't mind me asking, how's that tier going? Like, how are those going? Because it sounds really cool.
I think that we've done 10 or 12 of them so far.
Okay.
I'm not sure how many we're going to let out the door because they are a bit time intensive to make. So we'll see how popular it stays. It might be a limited tier. We'll see. In the past, we've done some other fun 3D printed stuff like 3D printed skulls based on the cover art and things like that. So Angela's a really great designer. So it really gives us a lot of freedom in what we can offer as a reward.
Yeah. No, that's really cool looking. I like that.
We're also sending out a random 90s CD on one tier. You get the book, and then we pick from the CJNK, which is the fictional radio station in the book. We pick a CD from the record library. Could be Ricky Martin, could be Pearl Jam, could be Kenny G's Christmas album, Mariah Carey. You don't know. That's like you're rolling the dice on something from the 90s. But it'll have been released between 1990 and 1999. That's the guarantee.
Nice. All right, cool. I mean, listen, it looks great.
Thank
it
you.
looks fantastic. I mean, and I don't have any doubt that it's probably reads just as well. So, I mean, it looks really, really good. How did you come into contact with the editor, Kevin?
I was working with Sebastian Gerner on the first issue, and when he launched his Goats Flying, his new imprint, he ran out of time pretty much to work on other projects, and he recommended that I get in touch with Kevin. So that was a nice assist from him.
All right, cool. Now, obviously, you've worked with a lot of editors.
Yeah.
During your career, right? So, in this context, what was he doing for you? Was he just like correcting, just doing, basic copy editing? Was he story editing?
He's challenging everything about the book to make it better, pretty much.
Okay.
There were sequences in the book that I loved, and we've worked on other books together too. We worked on a project called Model UN last fall, and there were parts of the book that I was in love with, and I would get the script back from him, and there'd be a section highlighted, and he'd be like, "This doesn't work. This needs to go." And it was the part that I loved. And I talked to him about it. He's like, "Yeah, everything slows down here. The whole story slows down. There's no need for this to happen. Like you can infer everything here from like one or two lines." He's 100% right. So it's stuff like that. You need that extra set of eyes, someone who's completely objective about the story, someone who hasn't lived the story the same way you have. And if it doesn't work for the story, it's gone. Like economy is important, I think, in comic books, because you do have limited space to a degree, like in a single issue at least. Obviously, you can run your story as long as you want, but I feel like the more efficient your story is, the more room you have for things that really matter in the narrative. So cutting out the dead weight is pretty helpful.
Not to mention the pages are expensive, both in time and cost, right?
There you go.
So you want to get that message out in as few pages as possible.
Yeah, and sometimes you can't see it. I mean,
Right.
this is your story. You're living it. You don't have that objectivity, and you need someone who's able to just there. You need someone who is there in service of the story rather than in service of you. And
Right.
that's the key aspect of editing, I think.
Yeah. Very nice, man. Listen, man, looks awesome. What do you got? Another 17 days. You're 70% to goal. So listen, I think you're well on your way. I don't think you're gonna have a problem making that.
Oh, fingers crossed.
Yeah, no. I think you're gonna do okay. If not a lot better than that. So yeah, very nice. All right, so everybody go check it out. Dead Air 1, 2, 3. Very nice. All righty. Now, Mark,
Yeah.
designated number 2. All right, so what are we looking at here?
So we are looking at issue 2 on crowdfunder with no E. It's different than Kickstarter. I really like the platform. I wish more eyes would be on the platform as opposed to Kickstarter. Basically, it's 2 warring alien races fighting over a newly discovered power source to fight its way to planet Earth, and as a result, some human skin abilities. The story was written 30 years ago. It took me 30 years to finally get issue 1 published, and it only took 3 years to get issue 2 published. The book is already actually made, and I prefer to have the book physically in my hand, or just about in my hand, before I launch a digital campaign. The best thing about crowdfunder, and I do not work for them in any way, shape, or form, is that once the time frame is over, you can turn it into a store. So actually, I launched this probably 2 years ago. Book wasn't really ready. I paused it. I did some changes, and I was able to unpause it, and everything right back where we left off. So I really love crowdfunder, and you can get issue 1 and issue 2 on this tier.
All right, cool. Now, what's the deal with the clay figures?
So Shadow Rabbit Art is a clay maker, and he said that he would be happy to either make a scene from the comic or just of any character. And if you just go look to stuff, which is a Shadow Rabbit Clay art on Instagram, you can see that he does amazing work, and he's been in a lot of other people's projects. So he said that he would like to contribute in any way, shape he could. And I was like, sure, let's do it.
All right, cool. Now, I see you have Brian Kong work on it. What did he do for you?
So Brian Kong did part of the cover of the issue number 2. So if you look at it, there's actually 3 different things going on here. So we have the model, which is my co-host, who just happens to look like my character. It wasn't even a thing. It was a photo image. We did a photo shoot of her. Brian did the exterior, the outer portion of the alien foreground, I would say. And then my graphic designer filled in the background part of it. So it was actually, originally we were going to have Brian do the full cover, but then cost and time, and I wanted to get this book out. So I was like, well, let's see what we can do. And I asked him if I could use part of his initial idea for the cover to incorporate into the issue 2 cover. He said, no problem. So that's how he got involved in that.
All right, cool. Very nice. Very nice.
Inked by Peter Palmiotti, which is Jimmy's brother. And issue 1's cover is done by Russ Braun, who wrote The Boys.
Wait a second, hold on. Who's Jimmy?
some guy, Jimmy Palmiotti. Some guy who works.
I know who Jimmy is. Might be other people don't know who Jimmy is. That's all I'm saying.
Jimmy Palmiotti is, I guess, creator of Ash. He's worked for, actually, if you, what is it? Chasing Amy. He's in Chasing Amy as an inker. He's probably one of the most well-known inkers of the time. His brother, which is Peter Palmiotti, who's also worked for Marvel and DC in his own right.
Yes. All right, cool, man. I mean, does this thing? It doesn't have a time limit, though, does it?
So it's a timer for the amount of time you want to have it running. But then once it passes that, it can keep on going. So if you notice, it says 100 weeks running, which is when I first launched it. Like I said, but then I paused it because I wasn't really ready to have the book ready to go. And I unpaused it. Actually, I unpaused it earlier today because I knew I was going to be on it. I figured I would have the digital up and running. So I unpaused it, and then we just go right back where we left off.
All right, very nice.
Now that I have the book actually in hand, so I can start selling it.
Okay. Very nice. All right, cool. This looks awesome. I mean, listen, man. I mean, Peter's already working on the 3rd issue.
Peter should be, if you're listening right now, Peter, get to work. He should be working on 3, 4, and 5.
Gotcha. All right. Very nice. Very nice. That's right. Damn it. Get to work, puppet. Peter's a cool dude, though. All right. Real quick, I'm going to pop this up. Tom, you don't have a campaign. What happened?
2 weeks.
2 weeks. Okay, 2 weeks. All right. So this is my campaign is currently running. This is a country night in New York City. This is an Oswald Chronicle. This is a story that Oswald is telling. And for any of you who don't know, Oswald's a mouse. And he is currently at a nexus point in his life. And he's telling the story to a group of people. And the story is about this young lady. And she's this young knight. And she is in a community who's threatened. And her father and her brother were killed in a war, and she's the only one left that can protect her family and her family name. So she has to take up the mantle of knight. And they're being attacked by these weird-looking trolls and elves, and she has to go out and fight them. And she is eventually sent off to go to New York City to find a large stronghold of her own people to bring them back to help them fight these people off. So, and this is her story and what she goes through to go through this. And one of the things that, Jade Gonzalez, my longtime artist, as you can see, she draws a cartoony style. But when I write this, I don't necessarily write this for a cartoony style. I just write the story that I just see in my head. But Jade adapts it, and the way she does it just always cracks me up because this little character, there's just so much violence involved in this particular story. It's just really funny. But that's just me. I just find that sort of thing amusing. But yeah, so this is running. I got another 14 days. We've already funded, so there we go. Thank you.
Nice.
Tom.
Yeah. So this is just an easy one. I'm just kind of curious. So it's kind of a 2-part thing. Do you guys actively look for people to review your book / actively look for people who may have reviewed your book that you didn't know about? Just like it's somebody just generally like on Goodreads or whatever, like they're just like, oh, I did a review on this book on Goodreads. So that's part one, is are you active in either side of that part of it? And then the second part is do you give a damn what the reviews say? Are you one of the guys that takes it too personally and you just avoid them, or do you go in and look for that little nugget of, yeah, that guy found something that I should think about?
All right, cool. Fred, you're up.
And of course, little bastard acts up as soon as it's my turn to go. So yes, to answer your question, quiet, Booby. Come on, come here.
He wants to give us 2 cents.
He feels very strongly about this subject. So yes, I do look for reviewers. I think that's part of like the game, right? Is to like try to, because I'm still new to this, right? And I'm trying to get anybody to read my book any way I can right now, short of bribing, because I just don't have the money for that. But I try to get it in front of people, and yeah, I do take it seriously, because a lot of times, I look for the value in them, whether it's like positive or negative. Like a lot of times I'll see something, and a long time ago, I heard like Quentin Tarantino once describe, and I think I mentioned this on the show or one of the shows I've done a while back. He says, when you do a story, you should make sure you know your story inside and out better than anybody. Mm-hmm. And I like to see the reviews, because I like to know if they're getting what I put out there, and if what I put out there was clear, and sometimes like I've seen a review or two where it's like, I respect their opinion, but like I disagree, because like I know that like what they're saying doesn't work is intentional, because what's coming for that is coming off late, like the payoff is coming later and stuff. So I think it's helpful to see if I'm on the right track or not, especially as it pertains to this book that I care a great deal about. And I'm also still trying to, anytime I get a review and there's something in there that I can use to try to help the book succeed, I absolutely do. The other day, I had a really nice comp to said it was like Shameless with superpowers, and I was like, I am going to use that. I started posting about it. I literally opened up my television, brought up Shameless on the TV menu, and took a picture of myself in front of it with the cast. So anything I can do to try to, use those reviews in a positive way, I do, because there are negative ones too. My first comic, if you guys want to hear a real quick funny story. My first comic was about a self-conscious scientist who made a Frankenstein body for himself out of the best parts of bodybuilders. And I'm going to go back and revisit that concept and do that story right. But the first version I did was very good. However, we drew way too many naked penises in the book. How
many is too many?
You went full Dr. Manhattan.
Well, so here's the thing. Okay, I actually
wait. How many per page?
Okay, so I actually did the count, and it's about in a 28-page comic or 24-page comic, it was about 7 pages featuring a naked penis. So the ratio, there is a Goldilocks number about like penises per page. I didn't find it, man. I went, Goldilocks went way too hard on that one. No pun intended. But it was my first book, and I drew one scene in particular where it's about a self-conscious guy in the shower. You'll appreciate this, Anthony, being a Lord of the Rings guy. The line was, he felt like a sad hobbit in the presence of glorious elves. And it was just him being like little, looking at all these guys with like great bodies. And there happened to be penises in that panel. The artist just kept drawing them. And it was my first book. And I didn't have the heart to correct him, or the balls, as it were. I would show it to people, and they would be like, well, it's not that far off. It's a book about like male, the male gaze or whatever it is. And it's like, but the problem was that was the first thing all the reviewers mentioned, lots of crotchular region and, a heavy fixation on. And I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ. Like, I didn't mean to be, these things happen, I'm sure, to somebody else. Maybe
but
once.
NSFW is so popular on Kickstarter. Why didn't you just double down and make like 14 pages of penises in the next issue? It feels like you could have. This is like a path not taken kind of thing. Like your Robert Frost moment was this.
Can I go back? Can I go back and walk down the road of penises traveled? I would love to walk that. But Jesus Christ, I forget how that was relevant.
Reviews. Somebody made a
Reviews.
review.
We enjoy it.
Yeah.
I mean,
So the reviews taught me that, like, yeah, you know, if somebody says something and it's like an outlier and like I know why they're, I don't want to say wrong, but why I did what I did, then like that's okay. If they point out to me, it's like, yeah, I need to be way more conscious about male nudity moving forward, and like, you know, and all nudity and all anything, right? Because it's like, you know, that's where we lose people, you know. Like I'm a big fan of like adult content. I grew up, you know, watching, you know, HBO movies and stuff in my grandma's living room at like 11 p.m. and stuff. But I love that kind of content. But when you get like too gratuitous, I think sometimes you lose what you're doing and you lose the message. And so, yeah, reviews can teach you that. Again, if your eyes aren't open and you don't see all the balls and dicks in front of you. I'm going to mute now because he's being obnoxious. You guys go. I've said enough.
Anthony, what are your thoughts? How do reviews affect you?
I mean, they're good. Like, I mean, it's good to get people to review your book, and obviously, you know, I've had a lot of reviews in the past. I think it's actually getting. I don't know whether it's because I'm 4 volumes in. It's harder to get people to review it because they've got to read everything. You know, like it's getting harder now that I'm the 4th volume in. It's like 400 pages of comics, so you got to give someone a lot of lead time, like 3-4 months to really do that. But I still have a decent good response from it. I've never really had anyone say, you know, your work is trash or anything like that. And if they do, I'd like to know their perspective, why they think that. Always open to feedback, but I think that they're important. Like, it's good. I've got a few reviews on got customer reviews. I think that they're even more important. I think it's good to get someone to review it from a critical perspective, from a film critic or comic critic point of view. Having customers say nice stuff and coming back on your campaign and wanting to buy it, I think that's one of the most important reviews you can get, because you know that, you know, people are reading it, they're liking the book, they like something about it, they've come back, you know. So for me, I don't know, does that, I mean, it's just like I said, I think it gets harder as you make, like, you know, more and more volumes in the same series. It gets really hard to kind of break away from, like, to get people to want to review everything, you know, or look at everything. And like, sometimes people are like, yeah, I read the 1st volume, but it's great. I go, yeah, but we're up to like 4th volume. Like, they've already read 150 pages and they're like, yeah, it's great. And like, but I need you to read the 3rd volume. So it's the challenge, I guess, in making a big series, and, you know, so yeah.
Well, maybe if they don't read the next volume, maybe that's the review, the real review that you have to listen to. Because if they say that they love the first one so much, but they're not willing to go to number 2,
yeah,
maybe there is a disconnect that they're not putting out.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I literally have asked them that as well. I said, is there something, you know, like, you know, no, I just haven't like had the time, or they, you know, maybe that, you know, they're not, you know, maybe they're just not into it. Who knows? But it could, you know, it's just, yeah, I've actually asked, is there something wrong with it, or, you know, and they're like, no, it's good. I just haven't gotten around to reading it. They're big books, you know what I mean? So, but yeah, I also like actively trying to find people to review is a challenge as well. I find it's very, you know, hard to get people, even if you know, it's just, I don't know how people feel about it, but it's just, I've probably contacted about 10 people to review the series, and maybe only 2 have gotten back. You know what I mean? So I don't know if that's been your experience. I think it's the whole thing of like the fact that it is 4 tomes of comics, you know, it's nearly 400 pages a book. You know, that does put people off from reviewing things. Some people, maybe I'm reaching out to the wrong people, who knows? So yeah, but yeah, all interesting insight. Yeah.
All right, cool. Benjamin, what are your thoughts?
We looked for reviews in the first book we did. And we haven't really done that since. I'm not sure if it was helpful or not. I mean, as mentioned by a few of the others, being able to print a quote that's you know, a decent quote can be helpful, but I don't read them myself. I mean, working as a journalist, you don't read the comments. It's just like, it's never ending. I get emails all the time about my work, and it's like, okay, thanks for reading. That's honestly how I feel about it. Sometimes I write back and I'll say that, you know, appreciate you taking the time to read read whatever it is that made you so angry. But yeah, that's my attitude towards it. I think really feedback is nice, but feedback from people whose opinion you value is the best thing. Whether that's a professional opinion or whether it's someone who's interested in the same topics that your book is purportedly about, or just someone whose comics opinion that you trust. So that to me I think is worth more. And I think for some people that might be a comics reviewer whose tastes align with their own, and that could be a good barometer.
All right, cool, very nice. Mark, what are your thoughts?
I used to, but now I no longer do. Like I said, it took a while to get my book first published, but I actually made a book with Mariano Nicieza. We did a crossover comic 100 years ago, and it got reviewed, and I was so excited because it was my very first book ever gotten reviewed. And it was a collaboration between Mariano and myself. We wrote it together, and then he went and got an artist to do the artwork and the ink and letters, all that stuff. The reviews basically tore the whole comic apart. And he said, but the writing wasn't that bad. And I was like, that's me. My writing wasn't that bad. Yay. But other than that, it really wasn't a point to listen to that review beyond getting that little nugget that my portion was cool. So with this, because it's a 5-issue series and the story's already written, there's not much I could do with feedback. So I want to wait until it's all done. And then maybe when I get the trade out, I would send out to get reviews to see what people think of the whole story.
All right, cool.
Did you ever see the movie Ed Wood?
Yes.
I love that when he's reading the review and he's like, see, they said the costumes were authentic. They review plays and they don't even mention the costumes.
Nice. For myself, yeah, I've had them, but I don't necessarily go out and seek reviews, but I have had stuff reviewed. And I remember one time, a couple of guys reviewed my stuff, and they had said about this one particular story, they were like, oh, he has an info dump right at the beginning of the story. Right. And because of that, they were just like, oh, they dismissed the whole thing. And I was like, sons of bitches. One, they reviewed the story that I sent them one story, they reviewed the other story. And I was like, what are you doing? But then I was like, there's no info dump in the front of that story. Then I went and I reread it and I was like, holy shit, there's an info dump right in the beginning of my story. I ended up ripping it out, rewriting the whole thing and putting it together. And it actually does make for a much cleaner read. So, sometimes reviews can, listen, I was gnashing of the teeth, chewing on a brick. I was like, I went through the whole 9 yards, but they weren't wrong. They were right. And it did. And in the end, it did help me. I went in, I fixed it up, and I was like, and now it's a much cleaner read. And if I were to show you the work, you wouldn't even notice that, I ripped that out. So, yeah. So, Tom, you're up.
So in the early days, we used to actively go try and find people to review stuff. I mean, why wouldn't you? Nobody knows who the hell you are, right? So anybody talking about you should theoretically be good as long as the review is generally good. So we sent all of our books out for the first few years, trying to get people to review it, and they would review it. We'd get generally good reviews for the most part. I can't really ever recall getting like what anyone would call like a bad review. Like they might point some things out, some thought processes, but it was never like, what is this piece of crap? Like, so that I feel like that's good. We never really had that side of the coin happen. But there came a point in the review process that put me off of caring about finding reviewers and caring what in the world they had to say. And then I just let it go. And it was basically 2 times. The first was a review for Legend of Oz, which was a good review. It was a genuinely good review. It was like 3 girls, they were reviewing comics and they reviewed the book and it was like, this is a great, I love this. And then at the end of the review, the one girl goes, the only thing I don't understand about this book is why is there a random lion in this story? And I was like, okay, I can't help you here. I have to move on, or this will just become a really bad internet moment.
I feel like C.S. Lewis got a review like that once.
Why is it a random line? Yeah, I was like, random line, Wizard of Oz. Yeah, okay, I'm done with that. And then the other one was a podcast. This is like early days of like podcasting. This would have been, we're doing this for 16 years now. This would have been like year 2 for us, something like that. So it was some guys that just talk comics, back in the day. They talk comics with each other, and they were both reviewing Critter. I think we had the first 2 issues out, and again, generally good review overall. One of them liked it clearly more than the other one, but the one that didn't like it as much, as I listened to them, because it wasn't live like all this stuff is now, it was just they just recorded it and put it up. As I listened to it, I started to get more and more frustrated with this guy, because it was very, very clear to me that because of his critiques, he liked the book but didn't want to like the book. And so he was trying to find anything that he could be like, yeah, but this. And so he was very upset with the fact that we had 2 characters. One was named Rookie, and she's like a sports style superhero. And one was named Electric Youth. And he was very upset. Remember, we have 2 issues out. He was very upset that I named these characters Rookie and Youth, because, well, what happens when they grow up? What happens when they get older? What happens when and I'm like, there's 2 issues, dummy. Like, you've never seen a character as Robin forever? No, Robin became Nightwing. Like, I mean, you've read comics, dude. You understand how comics work, right? So I was becoming really, really frustrated with this really dumb take. And then he goes on to say, because Critter takes place in Michigan in the early days of this book, and there's a segment of time where it's like, okay, I don't remember, whatever it was like 7:00 in Michigan. I put that in a caption because Electric Youth is our speedster, so he like races really fast. He's our Flash guy. So it's like 7:04 Michigan time, and then the next panel you see him racing off, and then it's the next panel it says like 7:15 Eastern time or something like that. So the indication is he just ran from Michigan to Florida in like 7 minutes, right? The guy says, yeah, but he screwed that all up because the time zones are totally out of whack. He didn't do his research at all. And I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? These are both Eastern time zone places. More specifically, this takes place in Greenville, where I live, and I know my time zones from here to Florida. And so the other guy was like, oh, really? Is Michigan in the central time zone? He says, yeah, Michigan's in the central time zone. No, dummy. This is Michigan. About this much of Michigan is in the central time zone. Nowhere near where I am over here. And so live on the air, the other guy was like fact checking him about these time zones. And then he was like, he did well with that then. No apology, no nothing. Just like, oh, he just did. Oh, okay. I guess he was right. All right. And I was like, I'm done. That's it. I'm out. I can't do this. I will happily talk with people. Like, I love talking to Lori Calcaterra. She does a live podcast. She'll talk about your books. She doesn't do reviews, but she wants to talk to you about the book, and she'll go deep diving into it. I love to do that. I love to answer questions. You got questions? You got time zone questions? I'm going to answer those for you. But I can't sit back and like listen to people talk about what I did and be wrong about it or have weird tangential takes. My head explodes. So I'm done with that. If you want to review my stuff, you're welcome to do it. I just don't care. I'm not going to care. DM was in our comments earlier. He did a review on Critter a while back. So that was fun. But again, it's like I put no stock in any of that anymore, and I don't chase them down. Anybody that wants to do it, I'm happy to do it. You need content and you want to review stuff for your website, I'm happy to hook you up. But just don't think that I'm going to be chasing down the review to see that it was right or wrong or good or bad.
Cool. Mark, you're up.
So, Tom, speaking of Critter.
Yes. Oh my God. That is epic throwback stuff right now. Holy smokes. The first ever Big Dogging trading card. That's part of the War of the Independence series that Dave Ryan is doing. And we got her involved in it very late, but he was like, yeah, we've had some dropouts, so we can just like put her in the background of the book. And I was like, awesome. And then they made trading cards. So I was like, holy smokes, that's incredible.
Okay, there's your throwback right there.
Yes.
So my question is this. It's a pretty easy one. Because Anthony was doing Fantasy 7, he mentioned D&D a couple of times. Do you guys have any idea of what you would like to have your property go into a different medium or not?
Okay. Anthony, you're up.
I'm up. So what's the question? So I've already made 2 D&D books. So what are you? What's
Right. So would you like to make it into a different medium, to a video game or a movie,
Yeah, well,
a TV show?
That's definitely what I'm doing already. So we're already making a video game on Steam. We already got it ready to go. We're launching that this year, and we've been marketing and pushing that. So I think comics are a beautiful medium, but I think the reality is that they're changing. The readership's changing. We've seen it with Diamond's disappear distribution, and I think it's always good to be open to new things. I mean, even Guillermo del Toro himself has said the video game is a fucking modern day comic book. Sorry guys, we're all dead. We're dinosaurs. That's the reality of it. So our audience is definitely shrinking. And also another perspective. This is I'm putting the authority down. On my Facebook ads, 20 to 30-year-olds are not clicking on my comic. And that could just be because of my thing, that they're not getting traction. I've stopped marketing to 20 to 30-year-olds. My audience is 30 to 50-year-olds when I do run ads. And they're the people that are engaging with stuff. So what that tells me is there a future in comics? It's a very challenging future, if anything. And I think it's not about giving up on the medium. I do comics for the love of it, the pure love of it. And like I said, I want to make this book, whether it doesn't fund on Kickstarter, I still want to create what I want, the worlds that I want to create. And are there other mediums? And yes, I think it's really important to diversify into other mediums, because I think that there's more money. And that's actually because I do this full time. This is all I do. I don't work for anyone else. I make a living off my art and my craft. I think it's very important to be open-minded to making money in many different forms. Obviously not selling out to the point where, you no longer love what you do. But if something makes sense and you think you can do it and it's feasible, do it, So that's just my take on it. But, be open. If you can, be open to doing things in many different ways. And, it's unfortunately, comics, I think, are a shrinking audience. I don't think, I know my nieces and nephews. I've got 4 nieces and nephews. My sister's got 4 children. Not one of them has read a comic ever. No, I've given them my books. Not one of them has read it. And my sister is a teacher. She loves literature. She's a teacher. She pushes them to fucking read, because she's like a proper educator. She'll sit down with the kids. She doesn't like them playing on the iPad. She doesn't like them playing video games. But still, the lure of the age we live in, I feel that it is getting harder and harder to convince children and the younger generation to read. But there is always going to be outliers, and I still think, has it always been that way? No, I think that when I was growing up, we had the readathons. We had things where there wasn't the shininess of digital media. I really didn't get a Game Boy till I was 14 years old. But what did I have? I had books to entertain me. I had comics to entertain me. I was buying X-Men from the news agency. Now in Australia, you go into a news agent, the only comic that's available is Phantom.
But then what do you want to turn your thing into then?
That's exactly right. So for me, it's video games and animation. I'm going into animation because how can we get people to take? People don't have attention spans anymore. This is the problem. It's a real fucking problem, And so that's why I'm doing. I've got short form animated content now. Memes of fantasy tropes and stuff. And it's not like I'm quitting comics, but it's just like here you go. What's this? Dude, English teacher here. I can't even get most of my students to watch a movie. That's my point. You know what I mean? That is my point. My nephew hasn't watched the whole movie. It's very hard to get him to even watch a movie. And I think, the rise of neurodivergence, ADHD, technology also impacting that. You know,
I mean,
and it's
manga
bad.
sales are through the roof, though. Like, I don't think the numbers are backing up what you're saying. Maybe some aspects of comics aren't as popular as they once were, and maybe your ads are selling to older people because they have more discretionary income right now. Where we're in a world where young people have no money because there's no jobs for them because society has totally fucked them over. But I mean, manga sales are crazy, like absolutely crazy, and a lot of that is youth driven, and a lot of that is YA driven. I mean, the YA market is enormous. So like, I don't think there's a gap.
I totally agree with you, Benjamin. I agree with you with that as well. And so it's like, do I even pivot to manga? Do I go to Japan and translate this to a manga? Because it is fantasy. The highest selling mangas are fantasy. One Piece, you know what I mean? Fairy tale, you know. And so it's like, you do have to pivot to other mediums. I do speak Japanese as well, by the way. I studied it for 4 or 5 years. So I speak English, Greek, and Japanese. So it's like, that is another avenue for me. And I'm going to be open to talking to publishers in Japan. I'm set to go to Japan this year and maybe early next year. So like, definitely you always have to pivot, and you have to think, if something's not working, you do try different mediums and art forms. And eventually, I mean, Stan Lee himself came to Japan. If it wasn't for him going to Japan and making that Spider-Man in the fucking robot thing in the car, he wouldn't have, even they reckon that Marvel wouldn't have had the success it's had now, you know, because he went to Japan, and, you know, that inspired the Power Rangers, all that sort of stuff, you know. So I think it's good to always be creative and adapt and change and try and, you know, and you know, there's always so many factors, like Benjamin says. It could be that ads, you know, youth don't have money to spend on Facebook. It could be anything, you're right. But then again, like, if I get a publisher to publish my comic, you know, a YA book, you know, with Scholastic, then I know that, hey, it's getting into libraries. At least kids are reading it. It's not going to be at a comic book store where they have to pay $40 to access my book. They can now borrow my book. And we've been pushing it in libraries as well, but there's only so much one person can do, you know, in terms of doing that. So, and as part of it as well, working on a video game, I'm working with a studio, and they know all about video game marketing and the business model of video games. So like, I'm going now to Kieran, who's amazing at what he does. And so he's got, you know, 10 years of my art, you know, my art direction, and bang, he's got 8 years plus in video game dev, you know. And again, that will push it into another medium. And hey, look, we make a multi-million-dollar video game. I can do comics any way I want afterwards. You know what I mean? So I think it's important to be creative in your business as well, and adapt. I think that's an important part, is creativity in business. You know, like I sell dice as well, and they took off since 2020. And I crafted my own and sculpted my own dice, D&D dice. You know, and so that helps bring in income here and there. You know. So I think, yeah, do as much and different things as you can. And, you know, obviously don't forget, like, this is why I came back to volume 3 and did this year. I came back to the source, the true art form, which is the comics. And, you know, you always want to come back to what you want to do. And for me, this is why it's not a big of a letdown. If it doesn't fund, I'm not going to cry over it. I've got other avenues of pushing this. You know what I mean? And so it's good to have, I guess, you know, many tentacles in different art creative things. But that's just my 15 years experience. So, yeah. Does that answer your question or not?
No, it does.
Yeah. All right, cool. Benjamin, what are your thoughts?
I think that when I write for comics, I'm specifically writing for that medium and all of the cool stuff that we can do with it. And I think that makes it a challenge to adapt to other types of media. We also had a pretty negative experience with a producer on our first book who wanted to make it into a movie, and it got into the scripting phase, and we got a script that was sent to us, and it was just a disaster. And I think that personally, I very much enjoy movies and television. If I'm going to be writing for that, I'm going to be writing specifically for that. When I'm creating something for comic books, I'm not thinking about an adaptation whatsoever. And there are so many compromises inherent on moving from the page to the screen. I'm not sure how positive that experience would be. So I'd rather just, if I'm going to write something for the screen, just do it with that in mind and kind of skip out that compromise step, or, you know, push the compromises down the road for when it's actually, you know, in the hands of a producer or a director.
All right. Cool. Fred, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I'm still kind of new to this, right? Like I haven't experienced, the shifts in the market and things of that nature, that like other people have that have been in this for a while. I kind of just think that you kind of like, maybe I'm naive, but like you make the piece that you believe in when you can make it, and you just do your best with it to get it out as best you can, right? I think somebody gave me the advice one time that we go into battle with the army we have, not the army that we wish we had, right? Like, obviously, it'd be great if the economy was kicking and people were, all the kids were into comic books and stuff. But if that's not the case, I can't do anything about that. All I can do is try to get my story, as elevated and in front of as many people so they can at least try it. And to your question, Mark, yeah, my goal is 100% to get it into other media, especially because the comic's going to exist when I'm done. I got to make this comic my own way. It's my publication. It's my script, and Stan and everybody I've worked with has kind of delivered something that I'm really proud of and beautiful that I can look at, at least the art that's done, and just be like, okay, this is kind of exactly what I wanted. So if it's going to get to become something else now, I can, even if that's not what I wanted, right? Even if a filmmaker does something different with it, kind of the way like, The Crow, right? Like, even if you, you could love the movie and stuff, but James O'Barr's trade is very different, and people can go back to the source material and see that as it was meant to be, and they discover it because of that. And especially nowadays where you see things like Invincible, where it's like literally looks like the comics drawn and brought to life. Like, I would love to have my stuff be adapted, but without like kind of losing what it is, right? Because when JD asked me, it wasn't like, well, if it does well, no, it's 6 issues. It has a beginning and an end, and I would like to see that kind of honored and whatever. But if somebody comes knocking on the adaptation door, I would try to keep as much creative control as I can. But if it gets out of my hands, I still have Fisticuffs, or I will have Fisticuffs, the comic, to share with them and be like, this is what it's meant to be, and yeah, I hope it gets adapted into a bunch of media that stuff that I couldn't see, because like a lot of kids nowadays, they don't read comics and stuff, and they don't even watch movies because they didn't grow up on technology being the way it is. Like the other day, my friend and I were talking, and he was a little worried because he's like, my son told me the other day when he grows up, he wants to be a content creator. And I'm like, to me, that's not a bad thing. To me, it says he's a creative. He's just responding to the technology that he sees. Like, he consumes stuff that people create, so on YouTube and stuff, so that's what he wants to do, because that's the kind of language he learns. Where I learned storytelling from like Frank Miller and Steven Spielberg and like the artists who were front and center when I was growing up. So yeah, I would love to see it in different media, and I would love to make it as close to my vision as I can. But if not, the more the merrier. It'll drive him back to the comic, I think, one day. So yeah, go for it, adapt it.
Cool. Tom?
So our stuff's been talked about being turned into things almost from the beginning. When Penny for Your Soul came out, our fans were freaking out, like, dude, this will be like a great HBO show. And I'm like, well, HBO can come talk to me anytime they want. We'll figure out how to make that happen. We almost had Legend of Oz sold as a TV show about 10 years ago. Which, God, that was so painfully close, but it fell through. But we've always had Hollywood sniffing around, and right now we've got people that are interested in our Princesses versus Zombies book to do something with it, either like a TV show, short series, or a movie or whatever. There's a couple of producers, but at the same time, we also live in a period now where making stuff yourself is not impossible. So to be like, oh, I need a studio, I need a producer, no, you don't really. Obviously, it would be great to have $10 million to make a thing, but especially with crowdfunding and stuff nowadays, dudes are making movies with their phone and putting them on Tubi. Like, it's just, if you want to make something, you can. And so for me, with Princess versus Zombies, I have a director who I've talked to. I have costume makers that I've talked to, and these are all people that I've met through circles of various books and various cons. And like, we meet up once a year, and I make costumes. Oh, I'm a movie director. Oh, I'm holy, We have the whole team right here. We all live in different, portions of the country, but what if we all went to one place for 3 months and made a movie? And they're all like, yeah, let's talk about that. So there's a very real chance that we might just skip everything and just make Princesses versus Zombies ourselves. I've always thought Critter would be an easy adaptation for an animated series, like piece of cake. Take it and run. You can do almost anything with that thing. So it's never the goal. It was never the goal. It is not the goal. Like as far as my creation and my writing and what I'm doing, my goal is to tell the stories through comics. But even the way that I write comics now has become cinematic. Like I watch so many movies, not just for the entertainment value, but I watch what's being done. I watch the direction, the cinematography, I watch the camera movements, and I've tried to translate that to the page. So I get people now that when they read my books, that when they're done, they're like, I feel like I just watched a movie. And I'm like, yes, because that's exactly what I'm trying to do. And so in that regard, when we do go to translate it to something else, there's really, the beats are already there. The camera movements are already there. It's really a storyboard in an active sense. So when we get to a point where a producer needs to see something or a director needs to see something, we do it ourselves. It's like, it's right there. Just follow it. It's paint by numbers, essentially, modify whatever we need to modify, to be better for the big screen. But the generalities, the foundation is all right there. So if it should happen for anything that we're doing, it's all ready. Like it's ready. I've thought about it. I've had it in the back of my head. I've talked to enough movie making people. I have people who make movies on their own and they're like, oh, let's make a movie. Let's make a movie. Let's make a movie. I'm like, this is it. Slow down. Let's because the last thing I want to do is make something even ourselves and have it be not good enough. Right. I know I'm not going to make a $10 million budget movie, but if we can crowdfund $100,000, I've seen people crowdfund $100,000 for IP things that have some recognizable element. Princesses versus Zombies would work with that. And then you can go take that movie, because people are talking micro budgets, $4,000, $5,000, $10,000. I'm like, I'm not making that movie. I need to be a little bit higher. So we're going to plan for that. But I think we can do it. And so if Hollywood doesn't want to sort of put their foot on the gas, we'll do it ourselves.
Cool. For myself, I'm like Fred. Put it in everything, right? But for me, it's always a thing about contracts and what people want. If some of these places, they want everything, right? They'll like give you a certain amount of money and they want everything, right? And I'm like, I couldn't do it, right? Especially with the Oswald Chronicles, I couldn't do it. I was like, no. I have to complete the story. And I have to just, maybe at that point, once I'm done with it and have the whole thing on my shelf, then maybe. But before then, no, I have to finish it. So, it's difficult. But on a micro level, what I want to do is something that I know I can do. I just haven't done it yet. And I've always wanted to make a little plush toy out of them, right? But that's just
impossible. It's impossible, Calderon. You can't do that.
I know it's actually not that difficult.
Just talk to Carissa; she'll tell you where to go.
Well, no, I want to do a nice little run of them, but like Rob did. But it's just one of those things where it's just like, I'm so focused on finishing the book, right? Like I'm working with two artists at the same time on two separate stories at Oswald, and that doesn't include Dreamweavers and Magi's Grace. So it's like, I'm so focused on that. I'm just like, I have time for that. And I don't even have the, I do have the money, but I just don't even want to like push in that direction just yet. It's just too much.
Listen, man, 40 years ago, the great and mighty Yogurt told us the answer to all of this. Merchandising. This is true.
Mark, answer your own question, sir.
So I'm going to say originally, I would say I had no other plans but to make a comic. But when I was approached by a filmmaker to adapt it into a radio play to perform at New York Comic Con, I didn't think it would be possible. And then when they did it, I was like, holy crap, this actually can do it. And it was a collaboration. So much so that when I go back to read my first comic, I'm like, hey, this part of the story isn't in my comic, not realizing that that he changed it and that we agreed upon the change. So I've listened to the radio play more than I've read my own issue number 1. So it's so weird to have your own property changed and you forget that that's not what you did. But now that he did it, we're looking to do number 2. And I think maybe turning into like a TV series, like a weekly limited run TV series would be kind of cool. And I know it's going to be possible, but like you said, it's the rights. Like, how much would I be willing to give up? I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing about it, right? It's just like, how deeply do you want to get into that? You know? So, all right, gentlemen, we've well, I don't know. I guess I could throw out a real quick softball, right? So we'll do a quick softball question before we wrap up. How do you guys price your books? Right? Like, how do you guys, like if you got a 24-page comic, how are you pricing that? Right? Like, what are your considerations? And I'm asking you to distill this down in a couple minutes. So there you go. But I think Benjamin, you're up.
Well, my answer is probably gonna be different because I'm doing it in Canadian dollars. I know Anthony's gonna have his own currency issues too, but I try to keep it for me. It's around $15 for something like 24 pages, up to maybe 28 pages. I feel like that's what the market can bear in terms of what people are looking for on Kickstarter, and I feel like the crowdfunding audience is different from the direct to market audience, direct market. Sorry. So you just got to be sensitive to who your market is and price accordingly, and make sure you're not losing your shirt on your book. I mean, you're probably not. If you're having to factor in art costs and design costs and editing costs and whatnot, I mean, that's all got to go into your cover price too. So that's generally how I look at it.
All right, cool. Fred.
Yeah, I've been asking people, to be brutally honest. I'm still learning the proper considerations. Like Benjamin, I have generally a Kickstarter price for a single issue, and then like a table / in stores price for different considerations, and then variants, of course, too. But yeah, I mean, mostly I try to figure out like what's like fair in the market and like price accordingly. Now that I'm doing like a second and now like a third Kickstarter campaign, I try to, the newer issues are, a little bit more than like, if you want to entry level and, entry point to issue one. But yeah, I ask. I'm still new to the business side of it, and like that's still the thing that I'm still trying to learn. So usually, I think I have single issue floppies at about 14 or so, 13 or 14. So on the Kickstarter, and then I'll do one final thing where like I show everybody and I'm like, does this sound good? Right. I'm still not at the point yet where I'm like crunching exact numbers and trying to make a think of it like completely as like a sound businessman yet. I should be, but I'm trying to learn it, but I'm not there yet.
That's fair. That's fair. How long have you been doing it?
Well, this is my I started selling comics for real about a year ago with Fisticuffs, the first Kickstarter in March, and then this will be my third Kickstarter June 2nd. So I'm still like learning it. I didn't start selling besides the Dick book, like when I did that one, I did do my like local like areas and comic shops and stuff, but that was like 7 years before I started Fisticuffs. So I'm still new to Fisticuffs and still figuring it out. Honestly, after this next campaign, once I see how it does, and this will be once I start really factoring in how much inventory and costs, because I've only had to order inventory twice. I'm still figuring that out. So this time I hopefully will do a bit better. I just, crossed my fingers and was very lucky that, I did everything right for my taxes the first year. So 1 year down, second year, I'll figure out how to price shit accordingly.
Fair enough. Anthony, what are your thoughts?
I think my prices are pretty fair. Like, the only thing is that I did do a hardcover for my first volume, and that was 133 pages hardcover, and that costs a bit more to bring in and print. And I was hoping to sell it for $50 because it's a hardcover, it's a big book, but I've since dropped the price to like 45 or 40 at conventions, and it does sell a lot better. But like if you sell it for 35, it'll sell way easier. But then well, you've got this hardcover, it's rarer, it's limited edition. And so I'm like, that's why I've gone down to 48 pages in books, because I know I can sell that for $30. The time investment wasn't as much as a 130-page book, and it costs, and it's cheaper to print, and at least I know there's. So you got to really be careful with these bigger books. Like, what I don't think once you start hitting past the $50 Australian mark, which is about 40 American or $38 American, 36, something like that, people kind of start, clenching their teeth and stuff. So I think really, you really got to price things, I guess, according to what the market is paying already, and also what your book is at the scope that the book is at. So I feel that has dictated how I've done volume 3. I didn't do it. I could have easily gone to a 68-page hardcover, but I'm like, well, who's going to pay $50 a book? I really need to sell this for $35, and then do another book later, if that happens. So I think pricing is really important to think about in this landscape, and especially with this economy. I'm finding, like I was saying, I make dice as well. I craft my own dice, I sculpt them, and I make a D&D book. Once you get above $100 on items, people don't want to spend that sort of money. Like that audience is shrinking now. So like some of our dice have dropped to like $98 or $80 dice. Now D&D book, we sometimes have to do deals. It's a $88 hardcover, so we're dropping that to $80. So I think people will only pay so much for books, and so you really have to be careful the sort of book you make and how many pages you do, and think about the current economic landscape, if you know what I'm talking about. Does that make sense? Or
yeah. Mm-hmm. All right, cool. Mark, what are your thoughts?
Well, for the crowdfunder right now, I think issue 1, I always find that I should charge more for issue 1 than issue 2, because that was the jump off point. I think it's $7 or $8 for issue 1 on the crowdfunder, and then issue 2 is like $5 or $6. So I figure around that much. The shipping will kill you, but that's just how it is. But in person, I usually keep it around that price, and that's how much regular books are. Floppies, 22 pages.
All right, cool. Tom.
Well, we've always tried to look at what sort of real retail is, like, because when we started, we were back in comic stores. So we were like, well, we have to be, in a general, like, we can't be crazy. They're used to paying, back in the day, they're used to paying like $3, $4 for a comic. Now it's a minimum of $5. But we kind of were like, all right, well, we'll be $3.50 back in the day. And then it gave us a weird price tag on the front of the cover that kind of stood out. So we weren't $3.99, we weren't $2.99, we were $3.50. So I just liked the visual of it. But then as things have gone along and we're doing Kickstarter and stuff now, I still kind of think of the same thing. It's like, well, what is this book going to be at retail? And then add shipping to it, and shipping used to be $3 and it was $4, $5. Now it's average is probably about $7 to ship a book now. So even if a retail is $5, I still got to charge $12 for it just because of the shipping. So that's really kind of where we at is it's just sort of like, what is our retail? Add $5 onto it. And that's kind of where we sit. And then with trades, same thing. It's just kind of like, what's a standard sort of trade paperback going to run? And but the problem is that we don't print, 10,000 units of these things. Whereas, all these other companies are like, yeah, 10,000 units and we'll make this like a $12.99 trade paperback. Like, no chance is that happening. So, we got to be like, well, we're going to make like 1,000 or, something like that. And we have to kind of price it accordingly. So we'll always be a little higher than like normal retail, but we try not to make it too astronomical, especially because shipping just keeps going up and up and up. And, at some point you'll have to make adjustments just off of shipping because, they just tacked on another 8%, because of the war and gas prices and everything. We're like, yeah, for the next 8 months, it's going to be like 8% more, on not on everything, but on most things. And so you got to, account for that at some point. You can't be stagnant in your prices, unfortunately. But I think because we started our stuff so low, that if we had to start tacking on a couple extra bucks, I don't know that anyone would really notice because we haven't changed our prices in like 4 or 5 years.
Can I add to that? I think the shipping thing is a big issue. I just looked at my campaign now, and out of 60 people, it's only 12 Americans that have backed it, and that's actually unprecedented for me. So like,
yeah, because it's going to be like $70 to ship a book.
Yeah,
that's exactly right. So like, I would normally have. I think I'm missing out because of 100 of my backers from America aren't backing it because of the shipping, the VAT
100%.
tax.
100%.
Even though I said comics have no VAT tax on the campaign and updates, and literally a fan of mine who spends big money on commissions and will commission an animal from my comic or whatever. She said, yes, I would pay for a commission. And I'm like, was that you that voted for that? She says, yeah, I do. But I don't want to, I just realized I don't want to pay the VAT tax. And I tried to convince her and said, you're paying for fine art. You're paying for an original print painting. You're not going to get charged a huge tax on that. I'll cover it.
Yeah, but it's not the tax. It's just the basic shipping. I mean, just for me to send a book to Australia, it's like $70.
A book or a floppy?
No, like a book, like a trade. Yeah. Like
okay.
But the weird thing is, I can send a book to Australia from Canada for 20 or 25.
That's it. And I'm noticing a lot more Canadians. There you go, Canadians and Germans back in it, like people from other countries versus America, where America was my biggest audience, you know, and that's really depressing, you know, like. So yeah, but we know who to blame for that, so we won't go into that. So.
The dog does.
The dogs are angry too, yeah.
The only thing I could advise, Anthony, is if you were to maybe find a partner in America that could have the books, if you're doing POD printing, you print them here, and they would ship it out for you.
I mean, it's still 3 days. Maybe I need to talk to Philip Russett. Like, is it Philip? Yep. Maybe have a chat to him, or if there's anyone that you guys know. But I still feel like it's too little, too late. I still think that people, even though they see that, they still like feel like that anything could go wrong. You know, like because of the world we're living now, things are changing so much. You know, like you promise that, but in 3 months, that guy might not be publishing comics, or Trump introduces another tax. You know, he finds a way of taxing people, or we go to World War III, God forbid. You know, or something. You know what I mean?
I mean, 80% of our readership's in the U.S. and our previous campaigns bear that out, and we've had to dramatically. The paperwork alone for sending stuff across the border is incredible. I have to document a point of origin for every single book, every single piece of art. I have to file CUSMA paperwork for all of it. And I don't mean like all at once. I mean every single shipment I have to do that. And I have to pay brokerage fees on that now. So my shipping costs to the US have gone up 30% because of this political situation.
Maybe I need to speak to Philip, you know.
And I can see Vermont from my office. I live 5 miles from the Vermont border. So it's absolutely unprecedented.
You just need to get a drone and just send it over.
Airdrop them with a little parachute.
And JD, you were saying printing in the US, that's not a great option for international producers because we run into currency issues. So Kickstarter only allows you to collect in the currency of your home country. So if I'm collecting Canadian dollars and now I have to pay US dollars to get my book printed, that's going to cost me extra. Plus the fact is Canada's very cheap to print in compared to the US. So you add that on top of it and my production costs go up quite a bit. So we looked into that, but ultimately it doesn't save us anything. And then the other issue is, I mean, are all of your campaign rewards going to be produced in the US now versus Canada? Are you going to be splitting it up?
It's a big challenge.
How's that going to affect your volume?
Well, I mean, at one point when I was working with Ingram Lightning Source, right? Ingram Lightning Source has a program where they print the books in the company, in the country that whatever country you want, that they have a site at. So I was selling to the European Union, and I would have the books printed in Europe and shipped from Europe, and they would take care of that. And they would add another 5% or whatever. But I would let the people know in Europe that all you're getting is that book. You're not getting signatures. You're not getting anything else. You're just getting that book. But you're getting it at a much more reasonable rate than what you would normally get, because you're not going to be charged as much, in taxes. And you don't have to go. I don't think they were charging the VAT tax and all that stuff because it was done in Europe.
The new GPSR in Europe right now is making it more complicated too to ship from even people from Britain. are having
Right.
issues shipping their comic books because you have to have a product safety officer who's located within the European Union who will vouch for your product and file the paperwork and be your representative. And that's not an inexpensive thing to do depending on how large your customer base is there. So like even something like as simple as a book has to go through their product safety regulations. And that wasn't the case 2 years ago. So it does shift quite a bit.
Yeah. All right, cool. For myself,
I think the solution is offer digital rewards as much as possible, and that's what we're doing. And that's why we're doing the video game. That's what our way of getting around it is. Like, we got a digital comic for $15. You get my book. You also get a video game. There's not much to fucking whinge about now. Like, you know, you can still back me. You know?
and let me tell you, I mean, a lot of the campaigns that I've been running, upwards of 50% of what's sold is digital rewards.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So I mean, listen, I mean, it's a PDF. Like I can send those all day.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, it's like I said, I sell them for $10 or $8, and I'm like, I just wish I had 1,000 of you. You know, right? So yeah, but as far as pricing goes, you know, I remember the old rule was 10 cents per sheet, but it's like now it's all over the place, right? Like now it's like probably like closer to a quarter. Right. So it's like it's sitting there and just literally just trying to figure out like what's your best break even point and where you make enough money that it's worthwhile. Right. Because I need to make enough money just to keep it going. Right. I need to make, you know, I need to pay for what I pay for, then add a little extra on just to keep that sucker going. So, yeah, it's breaking it down, you know, with that math. One day, I guess maybe Tom and I and maybe Jay can get together, just do a masterclass on just breaking out price points, because it'll just be crazy. You know, we could pick up like a 240-page hardcover.
Well, and I'll just throw this in too, really quickly, because we're all talking about Kickstarters and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
There's a thought process of like, if the price is lower, people will buy more. It's a false process.
Yeah, that is very true.
They were going to buy what they're going to buy, whatever what the price is. And if they save $5 or $6 on something, they're not necessarily going to spend that $5 or $6 on you again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So, you know, don't freak out because your prices are too high, unless you really think they're too high. Mm-hmm. But if you go the opposite way and you're like, well, I'm going to cut my prices by 25% across the board for the next campaign, you might sell the exact same amount of stuff and come up 25% less in your money. So it's a really weird balancing act, all of this.
And you got to go the other way too, because there are always people out there who want to spend as much as they can afford to support what you're doing, because they believe in you as an artist, as a writer, as a creator. And you have to have those options in your campaign as well. Even if it seems like you're only going to move 5, 10, 15, 20 of those rewards tiers, it's still meaningful for your campaign, and people want to help you. And even JD, you're talking about digital, like you can do that digitally as well. It's surprising. People, I've had people reach out to me on past campaigns and be like, hey, I can only buy the PDF of this book, but I want to support more. What else can I do digitally? So we started adding like behind the scenes stuff, script stuff, layout stuff, anything to give people who want to support you the chance to do that. It provides as many opportunities at each end of that spectrum.
Yeah.
Very true. Very true. I mean, I did for this campaign, I have metal covers, which I don't normally do. And, they're really expensive. But I got 2 backers. But that in and of itself makes it worth it, because it's $130 per, for each level. So, I mean, for each time they buy it. So it's like, all right.
Make it easy for people to support you, right? Like that's the whole idea.
Yeah. Exactly.
I've offered 2 whale backers so far, like whale backer tiers, and nobody's taken them yet, but it only takes one. And then like that 20 seconds it took to invent that tier is like paid for itself and then some. So it's like, there's no harm in asking, or just putting it out there in case somebody, like Benjamin says, want to help, because some people do. Like, that's why people told me, try to land on round numbers, because some people don't care what the reward is per se, as long as, what they want is in there. They'll pay that extra little bit more because they feel like helping you, and like a number sounds better to them than, 50 sounds better than like, 47.52 or whatever it is. So, yeah.
I have a backer who basically buys everything, whatever's new on the campaign. He just buys everything. And so we've joked about it. Like, can you just make a Freddy tier? Like, make one Freddy tier. It's all of it. So I can just push one button. I'm like, yeah, okay, we'll talk about that.
Yeah. I have a McCrazy level named after the guy who asked me to make this level, and it had it's like a $400 level. He asked me to make it, and what's funny is I put it up. 2 other people backed it, and he didn't back it. And I was like, okay, that works. And then I keep putting it up, and I don't get it every campaign, but there'll be I got someone to back it on this campaign. And on occasion, I'll have campaigns where I have 3 people back, and it's like, okay, you never know where you're gonna get it, but just grateful to get it. All right, gentlemen, thank you so much. This was awesome. We made it to hour 2. Let's start with Anthony. Anthony, where can we find you and your work, sir?
Yeah, sure. You can find me at achristouart.com. There's a link to my Kickstarter campaign, Luminous Ages. There on Kickstarter, you can find me as Luminous Ages Volume 3 Dragon Ascension. So yeah, I'm there. I'm also on YouTube. So if you just do Luminous Ages, I'm doing a whole bunch of funny animated skits going back to the past point before, turning your stuff into different mediums. I'm actually doing YouTube animated shorts of all my characters, fart jokes, all sorts of funny jokes, fantasy tropes. So we're pivoting to that as well as to keep the series alive. And so you can find me there, and there'll be links to my Kickstarter there as well. So that's where I'm at. But Luminous Ages, just type in Luminous Ages. It should come up on the Google easily, and you should be able to find my YouTube at least, and it links to Kickstarter or my website.
All right, cool. Fred.
Sure, you guys can find me on all the main socials at Schwartz Art LLC. Find me on Facebook, Instagram, X, TikTok, and so forth. You can also find me at www.schwartzart-llc.com. And of course, the Fisticuffs Book 4 Kickstarter is in pre-launch now. We're launching June 2nd. And we hope to see you all there. Parker is going to come and bark at you if you don't. So I'm going to mute him now. Thank you guys for putting up with us.
All right. Fred, real quick, what's your dog's name?
Parker.
Parker. Okay, very good.
It's so when he's I named him after Peter Parker, so when he's bad, I can yell at him and feel like J. Jonah Jameson.
There you go.
It's like, Parker, what are you deaf? I called you twice. All that shit.
Nice. I like it. Benjamin, where can we find you and your work?
You can find deadaircomic.com will take you to the latest issue of Dead Air, where regardless of whether it's on Kickstarter or being sold from my website. And you can find my writing about other stuff, comics, music. I write a lot about cars professionally, and that's at benjaminhunting.com.
All right, cool. Mark.
Just Google It Came From the Radio or go to www.itcamefromradio.com. We are a weekly syndicated radio show on WGB, Long Island's oldest radio station, on 1240 AM and 95.9 FM. We're also on we're also on an additional terrestrial radio station, which is WARY in Westchester County. That's 88.1 FM. We're also on some digital online radio stations such as sci-fi.radio, BTD radio. We're also on 45 different podcast places. And this Wednesday, we're going to be at the East Meadow Public Library for our 104th live show. We're going to have Phil Russert as our guest. So if you're in the area, Long Island, New York area, come on down. It's a free event, and we'll be raffling off some tickets to the Elite Comic 11 show. And he will also be raffling off 6 of Phil's comics at that. So for more information, go to www.eastmeadow.info.
Cool. Tom?
I was on the radio once. I remember that. That was fun. It was interesting. It was like legit radio. It was kind of weird. Oh, twice. I've been on twice. I just remembered I've been on twice. One guy got to try to get me in trouble.
If you come out to New York, you can go on Mark's show and you'll be on the radio 3 times.
Yeah.
Yeah. So bigdoginc.com, guys, get your books. May 22nd, I am going to be 22nd, 23rd, 24th. I'll be at Traverse City here in Michigan, up north. But we'll also be launching the last issue of Goth Day on the 22nd as well. And then I will be at Hall of Heroes Con the weekend after that, down in Indiana. And then the weekend after that, I go to New York. I go to Chittenango for Ozstravaganza for the big Wizard of Oz show.
Oh, okay. That's nice. Are you going to swing around to the important part of New York?
I don't go past Chittenango. I stop and I say, "There's a wall somewhere there that I don't want to deal with," and I turn around. Yeah.
Gotcha. All right. Very nice. All right. So I'm JD Calderon. You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all those different places. Sunday nights with this gentleman, Friday nights with this gentleman, and JD Rosario, who's not a gentleman. And currently on Kickstarter. So you could find the Oswald Chronicles and Adventure Finders, Rod Espinosa's fantasy comic. You can check it out there. And please, everyone, check out the show notes, because in the show notes are links to all of these creators' products, all of these books, all of these fantastic dreams that all these creators have created for you. Click on those links, buy those books, because all of these creators are making great books, and please go back them because they need your help. All right. So thank you so much. And just remember, everyone, read more indie comics, especially ours. Have a good night, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Good night.